Hello, everybody, and welcome to Spec Commentaries, another edition of this feature of B-Spec Productions. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm Spec Son, and today on Spec Commentaries is a very, very special episode. I'm going to discuss something that I've been very, very passionate about for several years, since 2007, when I became a member of its message boards. That's right, I'm talking about IYH Wrestling. Com in your head wrestling radio, which is broadcast throughout the entire world wide web every Wednesday at 8:05 Eastern Standard Time. That's 7:05 Central, and of course the infamous 3:05 Hawaiian. But in your head wrestling radio, to me, symbolizes a community which we call the Headyverse. It's been around since 2005. Its hosts are Jackie Jones and also Inch Biceps, the Power Goat, and also at a time and for several years was also co-hosted by Barbie Richards, who is no longer contributing to the site as much as he was in previous years. But wherever you are, Barbie, thank you very much for all the entertainment that you provided all of us as a member of the beautiful people. Um, in your head wrestling radio, for those who are not as familiar with it, shame on you. You need to go to iwwrestling.com. That's the place to be to found all of this stuff and so much more that I've been talking about for so many years on my YouTube channel, and that you see at the ending of several of my videos. Every Wednesday in your head we'll have a show, and with between Jackie Jones and Inch Biceps, the hosts, they speak to a particular wrestler or particular wrestlers during every episode in which they interview them. Very thorough and in-depth conversations between those guys and the interviewee. And the interviewer, the people who have been interviewed range from guys like the Total Package Lex Luger to Tully Blanchard, infamous member of the original Four Horsemen and my long distant cousin of Specky James Blanchard, my alter ego, and also James J. Dillon, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. We're going to have Marty Jannetty tonight as I film this. Ivan and Nikita Koloff. The list goes on and on and on. Bobby the Brain Heenan, Jimmy Hart, all of the greats that you grew up with, and some of the current, the Matt Morgans of the world. Um, some of the current ROH stars, and I mean, it goes on and on. Of so many people from WWE, TNA, the independent organizations, Ring of Honor. So many guys over the last 6 years have been interviewed by IYHWrestling.com. And not only does the site provide you with cutting edge interviews, but they also provide you with a absolutely incredible hour or two of extra discussion about the professional wrestling industry between Jack and Inch Biceps. They talk about the business like none other duo I've ever heard. Usually, when you're listening to a lot of these wrestling websites who have a wrestling show, you will hear them ramble on and on and on about what happened here, what happened there, and there's not a lot of chemistry and connection going on, not a lot of banter, joking banter, that make the entire show seem very interesting and worth listening to, because after all, you're listening to this show and entering the chat room for over a couple of hours if you're not listening to the archives. So you want to be entertained by what you're listening to. The chat room is just as fun as the actual show itself. You come in there with me and so many other people. We are all just joking around, having fun, talking about wrestling, talking about the show, talking about whatever pertains to life. And it's such a very, very awesome community, and that's why we call it a Headyverse, because it's a very, very good community. Jack and Inch Biceps are going back and forth, just great banter about the business, talking to the guests. It's just a very, very cool atmosphere. And not only do you get that, you get the message boards, as I brought up earlier. That's how I was introduced to the whole thing to begin with. It wasn't the show, it was the message boards, where you have so many people who are part of professional wrestling in some form or fashion will come onto the message board as fans, and they will just discuss the business very thoroughly. Sometimes you have your trolls, you can't prevent that. But hey, one thing I'll say about the In Your Head message boards, IYHWrestling.com, is that you don't have to worry about an overly sensitive moderator overviewing everything that you will post on a message board and coming up with these insane rules. The only rule, the biggest rule, I should say, of the IYH Wrestling message board is to have fun. Have fun with the people that you're going to discuss professional wrestling with. Respect them, but have fun and discuss things that aren't even particularly involved in professional wrestling. You know, like Sarah Palin or politics, or some dude in East Africa did something with a toilet. Who cares? Something like that goes on. It's crazy in the Headyverse. We talk about all kind of crazy stuff, but we have fun and we like each other's company, even if we dislike each other for a very a long time or for a few minutes, but we enjoy discussing wrestling or some form or fashion about the business or outside the business. There, we've had Baby Doll, longtime manager of Tully Blanchard, longtime manager of the Handsome Half-Breed Gino Hernandez, longtime manager of Larry Zbyszko. She actually had a section of the forum dedicated to her, and she's a huge member. Excuse me. She's a huge fan of the Headyverse. She promotes it. She does, and we see her almost every year at the NWA Wrestling Legends Fan Fest that's held throughout the Southeast over um, the last 7 years, promoted by Greg Price. A lot of great stuff. We have had so many great people involved in IYHWrestling.com. It's not even funny, but I wanted to promote IYHWrestling.com, dedicated an entire spec commentaries to something that I very, very like dearly. There would not be a spec commentaries. There would not even be a secluded paradigm if it wasn't for IYHWrestling.com, because being around great people like that and people who care about the business and care about these words and what they really stand for life, there would not have been any of the other extra stuff that I do here on YouTube, because they inspired me to go ahead and do this, become a subsidiary of IYHWrestling.com, which I'm very, very proud of being. We have just recently, at least Jack and also our webmaster Tyler, have have renovated the entire website, have renovated the entire message board, and also we have new Facebook pages dedicated to ROHWrestling.com. Well over 1,000 plus fans, members of the Headyverse. Stand up to ROHWrestling.com. This is, I'm not going to lie to you, this edition of Spec Commentaries is all about promoting ROHWrestling.com, promoting a site that I like very, very dearly. And remember, if you want to listen to IYHWrestling.com and really figure out what I'm talking about, go to IYHWrestling.com again, and every Wednesday. And we also have several archives of professional wrestling interviews that we've had over the last several years. Um, Tons of banter, tons of great programming. Not only do you get the interviews and the shows every Wednesday, but you also get some of the pay-per-view recaps that they do, Jack and One Inch Biceps, and sometimes it's just Jack. You get banter from myself. I've already mentioned the Secluded Paradigm, spec commentary, spec reviews. One of my great friends of the message board and throughout the years of the IWC, the Internet Wrestling Community, El Santo Loco, En Tu Cabeza, and that's translation of In Your Head in Spanish. Um, Also, he has the AAA in English. You have President Clinton, who brings out the cigar bar every now and then. You have some of the annual tournaments and stuff like that we do in fantasy wrestling on the message board, such as the Carol Crockett Cup Tag Team Tournament, which I was very, very proud of winning with my tag team partner, A Changed Man, in 2010. We extended that into this year, in which we had a second one. We have had, and the Carol Crockett Cup Tag Team Tournament is dedicated to an In Your Head fan who is a big fan of In Your Head, and I had the pleasure of meeting him Carol Crockett, who is actually a cousin of the Crockett family, legitimate cousin, and a very, very good contributor to the message boards. We have had the inaugural um, Hetty Games, which is the war games in the Hettyverse. Um, Basically, fantasy booking, several different teams form together and they have an actual fantasy booking style of the war games that WCW Jim Crockett Promotions promoted for so many years. There's so much going on. I haven't even started the fantasy football and baseball stuff that Flea would occasionally do every year, who is the brother of Jackie Jones, the host of the show. It's just so many great stuff. There's a subsidiary, withoutyourheadwrestling.com. You can go there too to listen to the guys interview actual stars of not only the music industry but also of horror films of past and present. It's a phenomenal community to be a part of, and that's why I've dedicated this program right here, Spec Commentaries, to In Your Head Wrestling Radio. Go to IYHWrestling.com and be a part of the Headyverse. That's all I have to say for this edition of Spec Commentaries. It's been a pleasure talking about something that I really care about and I've cared about for a very long time, because without IYHWrestling.com, there's a really good chance that I probably would have been done with the IWC around 2007. But I'm not, and I'm still here. Thank you very much, peeps and peepettes, for tuning in to Spec Commentaries. I'm Spec Son, IYHWrestling.com. Peace out, peeps, and I'll see you next time. Be Spec Productions.